Your rat's nest may not look as bad as mine because of this MSD box has got to be mounted in here, but that's a factory controller and power feed. I've got all their wiring connected. I installed this metal bracket on the front like they instruct you to, and there's really no way to install it like the instructions say without, like we talked about in the last video, removing the dash. This ductwork can't be here. I'm not gonna fully do all that. So I cut off this end and bent it from there, and then ran a couple of self-drillers into this ductwork. Now I know it's not very strong, but most of the weight is being held by the firewall. This is just kind of supposed to support it a little bit. So that's done. I went ahead and even mounted the relay up into one of those screws. I ran, which this was frustrating. You see all the way in the back there, there is a ground on that screw that holds this assembly, which I found it kind of curious that they had us route 2 separate grounds through the firewall and out to the battery, but yet they still left an eyelet in the wiring harness from this relay for another ground. I mean, I don't understand why you can't just tie those together if I'm already having to go through all the trouble of routing those. Also, oddly enough, in the instructions, it told us to unhook all the harnesses from the firewall on the driver's side in one of the first steps of this install and unscrew it. I mean, not just pull the wiring harnesses loose, but also take the screws that secure that to the back side of the firewall. And I've not seen anything since then in the instructions that makes mention of why we did any of that. Aside from a lot of the wiring that it goes to its own connectors, the ECU has a couple of connections on it. One is from the main harness. You'll see that in the instructions. Let's get under the dash. This is something that is absolutely not covered really in the instructions. It does tell you which hoses to connect from these plenums to this, but it didn't show anything about mounting it. So this is the front dash vents. This one goes to the driver's side, that one goes to the passenger side, and then this opening here goes up to the vents that are above, like where your cassette player would be. And then that's the defrost plenum stock. So you're gonna wanna get this guy and attach it up there with some of those clips that they have. Hopefully there's enough to do that, plus the hoses. Some of these, the hoses will, like they've got these little tabs where the hoses will stay connected, so you don't need necessarily any clips to hold them on there. We'll see how that goes though. But anyway, this guy right here has to go on like so, and then you'll see that these vents will connect to the plenums on the side, and then the other ones will connect to these 2 defrost openings. They will route to the ones towards the front of the truck. So not super convenient to have to make all these cross over, because these go here and those go there. But I mean, they can't really change how the truck is laid out, but I guess they could change how these doors open and route them differently to where it'd be more convenient. So that's going to be a real spider web of hoses once it's finished. So here is the end result of mine. I don't know if this helps show much, but that's kind of how I ended up routing these things. And by the way, absolutely remove this radio processor computer thing that we mentioned in the last video, because I don't know how you'd get those ran and clipped on otherwise. Which again, I find interesting that the instructions didn't ask you to remove that, but they wanted you to unplug the fuse box for some reason. All right, I've got the wiring done under here so we can do some tests. Like I've said a few times, I ran these up. These are the inline fuses that are provided with the kit, and send them up to this power strip because there is a direct wire that goes to the positive terminal of the battery that feeds that. So technically hooked right to the battery. Also, when I came out of here with the grounds at the old place where the antenna used to come out, and I fed them into this loom that goes to run this light, because there's a ground situation here that loops right from the ground on the battery. So that's where I tied those into. Hopefully it would keep them clean. This is my test light. I've got it stuck into where the ground is and then connected to the blue wire. That is the thing that'll tell the compressor when to turn on. So that'll be a way to test and see if that works. Let's see this. Oh, the violet colored wire, I've got it hooked to the fuse panel. So it's got power when the key is in the on position, which it is. So you can tell these guys are on. This, I hope, is a tan wire. It's hard to tell when you're colorblind, but you know, it's hard to see color and be good looking. Probably stick that into my dimmer switch once we test everything else out. So let's see what happens. It's on. Pretty wide open. We'll test this to see if it switches to the feet, which, because of all this duct work, doesn't have a lot of room to blow around it. And the other side points towards the housing, so not sure how effective that'll be, but oh well. It's going up to the defrost, just making sure our actuators and doors work. It's all good. You can see in there. Idea of what it looks like. It's a direct feed to this center vent, which will have the most, probably the most air will blow from that, and doesn't want to divert out to these, but shouldn't be any more than the factory was as far as a differential. All the way to hot. The test light's still on. I don't know why the compressor would still be running. No, it's on defrost, is it? Yes. Defrost always wants to run the compressor to dry the air, so that has to get off. Let's try that test again. I'll just slide it over to cold. Yep, there it goes. All right, only thing left is the lighting. So let's turn on the dash lights. If they're not super bright, I don't have the radio plugged in, so that's not gonna work. And let's see, it's that wire right here. Yeah, that's on. Yeah. Well, that's all the way bright. Doesn't act like it wants to do dimmer. So yeah, it'll either go all the way off slowly or all the way on bright, even though it's hooked up to the dimmer switch and the wire that's making the dash go high and low. So that's one thing that doesn't work as well as I would have sure hoped it did. But it's not extremely bright anyway. Of course, it's always hard to tell at night, you know. Like sometimes a light like that is crazy bright, but I don't think it will be in this system. By the way, it looks like off is anything just beyond this all the way low fan. It looks like everything works in here except the dimmer's not dimming, it's just off on. Can't really do much about that besides hook the tan wire up to the correct switch. And there's only one light, I think. I'll verify it. I think the tan is the only light for, the only wire for hooking up to lights. I'll verify that, put the dash back together, and then we can start on the lines and changing our condenser out. We've unboxed that condenser kit. Part number's in the description and it's right there, which comes with, well, I guess not these, but kind of everything else we have listed here. This is our new condenser. We showed you that in the last video. This is the fittings that I think just comes standard with that comes straight out from your compressor. Wires and hardware. There's a binary switch, a mount for your hard lines on your firewall. These brackets, they're a mirror image of each other, or the same part number technically. You'll bolt them here to the condenser on both ends. And what's neat about this, you're gonna remove the factory condenser mounts and just reuse the upper screws. So you will not need to worry about if these are old and decrepit, because they're not gonna be reused. I always like to check if this thing's still, oh, scared me to death even though I knew it was gonna do that. That's weird. We're gonna get this mounted up and then start building our hard lines, which I went ahead and ordered this off of Amazon. It was $116. Probably get it on eBay as well. It's a Lane Keen. That sounds super American. This thing is huge. Like, I can't imagine. Oh, look, instructions even. So there's your part number to search Amazon or eBay. I mean, goodness gracious, that sucker is hefty. And it looks like it comes with all the size inserts. I'm not really sure what this SRB is, because it looks like we have sizes 8, 10, and 12 in, wait, is there a 6? I hope there's a 6. Yeah, I think that's 6 SRB, and then there's the regular 6s here. Thought they were 9s, but there's no such thing as 9s. Anyway, it comes with all the clamps or inserts or mandrels, or whatever we're gonna call these things. I mean, this thing was way cheaper than what they sell on Vintage Air's website, and as infrequently as we're gonna be using it, I'm sure it's gonna be just fine. Disassembled, the instructions will tell you to kind of set it this way with the tabs up, and then mount those brackets with these little pan head Phillips screws. And then I lubricated these O-rings that come in the little baggie and installed these like so. I just ran them hand tight. I think you can still get to them with a wrench once this is mounted, because they may need to move just a little bit to get them secured. Also for me, I had to mark where my transmission cooler is gonna go on this thing. And I wanna point out, I didn't see in the instructions that they wanted you to remove these, which would be kind of difficult to do after your radiator and everything's already in there. Because that condenser, whenever I hold it up to the mounting surfaces, it is making contact to these strut bars. So I don't really love that that's happening. There should be plenty of room between it and that structure that holds the hood latch and the horn. So I may put some washers between the radiator support and that condenser mount to sort of space it out some so it's not making contact here. There's this little bracket they want you to bolt with the self-drilling screws. And then you use these 2 Adele clamps. I don't know how she got named after those. You just want to make sure when you do this install that it's not making contact with the firewall. And once you can confirm that, you can zip these in and tighten up those 2 clamps. And then remember, don't over tighten these, make them pretty snug. But yeah, it's kind of a pain. You can't get to these once the grill and everything's on, so use your best judgment. Now I can put my transmission cooler back on here and start building stuff on the inside. Oh no. Where your dryer's gonna sit, you put it in its bracket that it comes with. Remove the cap off this end, it should be pressurized. Put an O-ring on this guy that come through from the condenser, and just snug it hand tight with that. And then you need to use these self-drilling screws to screw the bracket to your battery tray leg right here. But make sure if you get yourself like a 90-degree drill, or if you're using a cordless ratchet, that the battery's charged so it can drill all the way through it. While we're waiting for that to charge, I guess we'll go ahead and get this manifold bolted onto our compressor. This bolt and nut and our washer split lock washer. And all these O-rings and seals and shims and stuff came with this kit. I've held it up there and it looks to me like these are the ones we're gonna need, because when I set them in the compressor, they kind of drop in there and that sort of holds it level across. And it looks like the rubber would be making contact on both those sealing surfaces. So I'm gonna bolt it in place here and then we'll start building our lines to it. So this is bolted on and tightened up, and then I went ahead and just threaded these on by hand. So this is the large number 10 that came from the, let's see, the evaporator area. So that'll just get cut and fastened there. So that was a good choice, probably on that 45 degree. Then this 90 is the number 6 line that will go out and connect to this fitting from the condenser. I actually had asked Vintage Air for one of these that turned back forward, but he kind of refused to do it, saying that it would probably cause interference. But now I sort of wish I would have been more adamant about it, because that'd have been pretty rad if it turned back like so. Anyway, it's still gonna work just fine. We'll make this 90 and then we'll turn it back to that one. So I'm gonna cut this one first, and it'll have to be crimped on in the car, you know, so there's really no way to take this into a shop somewhere. You'd have to take the whole vehicle instead of just the hoses. So I'm glad we went ahead and ordered that tool. So let's get cranking. Whatever you do, don't cut it too short. Man, that's a lot of extra too. Kind of nice to be able to crimp it where it's gonna live. So you make sure you don't mess the angle up. Me talking like I've done this before. All right, I guess I'm just gonna start pumping it. I have no idea. Also, I'm not really sure the difference between these two jaws, the SRB or the non-SRB, but we're just gonna send it. Wait a minute, bottomed out. I was gonna say, that got really hard to do, and I'm strong as an acre of garlic. Guess we're gonna have to change out to those other jaws. Hopefully they'll make better contact. And this does have a pin to pull to where you can open it. Wonder if SRB stands for small RB. All right, let's SRB it. Oops. Oh, we're doing something now. Oh, we are $115 tool professionals. Okay, so I got all the lines done. I probably shorted this one a little bit. It's actually looking like it's gonna kink some. Not good, not good. So anyway, I guess if I had to, I could buy another couple of fittings. I've got plenty of that hose length left over, or so I think. So these are all snugged up and probably over tightened. The blue wire, I'm gonna clean this up once everything is guaranteed to work. Blue wire that comes from the evaporator goes to the binary switch, and from the binary switch, it goes out to the compressor. Now, if you bought one of their compressors, it'll just be a one wire with probably a bullet plug on it. I guess they're self-grounding. This one is like a factory replacement, so it does have a ground, and it has a little, what you call it in there, diode or something. Anyway, that's hooked up. Just gonna hope that everything works like it's supposed to. I've gotta put some straight coolant concentrate in here. Guess I can hook this overflow back up as well. And once we get this thing 50-50 coolant and water, probably put the air cleaner back on it. And we can head off and see Ross about getting this thing charged. Well, we didn't even make it out of the neighborhood, and it was saying check gauges, and the temp says it's wide open hot. I don't have, I mean, there's some heat in these hoses. They do feel a little pressurized. It hasn't puked anything up into this tank yet. Oh, they'll never do that again. It's not a swimming pool, buddy. It's not like, I know this sounds weird, but it doesn't have the vibe like it's hot. Like it's tink, tink, tink. And this hose is still cold here, so we may just not be circulating properly for some reason, which I can't imagine. I mean, we hooked up, I don't know, it takes one single air pocket, I guess. It's feeling a little bit warm. Yeah, I'm starting to get heat out of this too, which it was cold earlier, so it may have burped itself. I'm gonna leave that on hot. It's certainly circulating air. Oh. We'll see if that temp goes down, but it probably burped itself. Oh yeah. We're all good now. Ugh, I don't love that. But I bet I'll love the cold air that comes out of it, or I better. Also, oh yeah, I forgot my new switch. Nice to have that working. You know, nobody's going. It never occurred to me to call and make sure he was working here, or working today, or open. Fingers crossed. Let's see where we're at. Still pulling vacuum. It's like the longest 15 or 20 minutes of your life making sure that you don't have any leaks. Yeah, we're gonna be good. Pretty frosty. So I'm happy about that. I did notice temperature got really high sitting in that shop idling. And I'm not really sure what that's about. It dropped immediately, so I don't know if the thermostat's not wanting to open at the right rate or exactly what's going on, but we shall determine. Reeds in my driveway here with my little tippy thing. Yeah. That is pretty cold. It's not I don't know, it's probably 55 outside. ambient temperature. But regardless, that's still 30 degrees. That's pretty cold air coming out of there, so I'm super happy with that. That wraps up this video. Next time we're going to keep tuning on the truck. I know that we sort of skipped over finishing the tune, but I really wanted to get some actual antifreeze in this thing. Just kind of made me nervous driving it around when the temperatures dropped super low. Now that we have the AC all finished, now I can start focusing on monkeying with this carburetor. And I think we'll probably have to look at this transmission because it does act like it's slipping a little bit. I'm no transmission expert, but I am a good driver. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.